Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Well, that is right, my friends. Hour 2 on this Friday. It's hard to believe how fast time goes, again, especially when you are having such a good time as we have here on this program. It's good to be here today. Last hour, we talked about the knuckleheads at NPR trying to sing a sad, sad song to get people to remember watching Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers as children so that they will support the $1 billion Congress is considering cutting from the PBS, NPR public broadcasting budgets. They are, well, I don't want to go through it again, but you can listen to the previous hour if, of course, you want to hear that. All right. That's where we left off. What do I want to talk about this hour? I want to talk about deportations. ICE has given us a number of deportations. I want to talk about, again, some more problems within the Democratic Party. By the way, Jimmy Carville, called out David Hogg at his quote-unquote jackassery. That's his words, not mine. To his face, to his credit, to his face on a interview where they were together, joining by video or whatever. So that's out there. The left is in disarray, by the way. I alluded to last hour Doge claiming to have cut $200 billion from federal expenses in the first 100 days of Trump's term in office. I've got some other news out there. We've got a judge who's released. Remember the folks that thought that they were American heroes for targeting Tesla owners and Tesla dealerships? Well, one of these folks who was arrested in jail awaiting trial was released for, again, this is an alleged vandal. He was released because he couldn't get gender-affirming care in jail. I've got that out there. And I've got comedian, I use that term loosely here, and Amber Ruffin joining the ladies on The View with some comments on her thoughts about the first 100 days of Trump being in office. There's a lot to get to, my friends. We'll do our best to get to as much of that as possible, maybe throw in a couple of other things as well. Before I start, my friends, if you love seafood, and I'm talking real seafood, you got to check out Kenai Fish. Kenai Fish is a family-owned company that delivers wild-caught Alaskan seafood straight to your door. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're in the middle of the country, landlocked, whatever, they got you covered, my friends. Their salmon, which is sockeye, coho, and king salmon, is harvested from the pristine Kenai and Castleoff rivers. It's vacuum sealed. It's shipped via next day air. All that to lock in the fresh, just caught flavor. But it doesn't stop there. They've got halibut from the Gulf of Alaska. It's mild, it's sweet, and it's perfect for just about any recipe, my friends. And they have shellfish like king crab, snow crab, scallops. Folks, they've got everything. Rockfish, you name it. It's the best Alaska has to offer. Kenai Fish is about quality, sustainability, and supporting hard-working fishermen. Go to KenaiFish.com. Use promo code Todd. You'll save 15% on your purchase. That's KenaiFish.com, and that is spelled like this, Kenai. Kenai. Kenai Fish.com. Again, Kenai Fish.com. You will taste the difference, my friends, and you will be hooked indeed. All right, let's start here. ICE is saying, Immigration and Customs Enforcement confirms that there were 65,000 deportations and that the majority of the deportations, the folks that were deported, had criminal records. Here's what they have to say. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has confirmed that it has removed 65,682 illegal immigrants from the United States since Donald Trump took office earlier this year. The agency revealed that a large majority of those arrested included individuals with prior criminal convictions or charges. Now, I want to pause there. To be deported, and I have said this until I am blue in the face, but to be deported, you don't have to have a criminal history. You don't have to be someone who is a violent criminal offender. You don't have to have a criminal record. You don't have to have gone through the criminal justice system and be found guilty of some crime, a violent crime. That's not necessary. That's just where Trump is starting. You know this. It is maddening to me that half of America either chooses to ignore that, they don't understand that, they don't want to understand that. I don't know, but them's the facts, my friends. ICE Acting Director Todd M. Lyons said that 3/4 of the arrests were of criminal illegal immigrants, highlighting the effort as part of a measure to ensure public safety and national security. The brave men and women of ICE protect our families, friends, and neighbors by removing threats to our communities. Lyons stated approximately 2,288 of those arrested were identified as gang members from notorious groups such as MS-13, 18th Street, and Tren de Aragua. The statistics reveal arrests of individuals convicted of serious crimes included 1,329 sex offenses and 498 murders. This is crazy. These are people who were here on the previous administration's watch. They didn't care. They didn't do anything. They did nothing. They did nothing to try to stop this. Murderers and people guilty of sex crimes wandering the streets of America, totally not of any concern to the previous administration. A further 9,639 faced charges or convictions for assaults, 6,398 for DUIs or DWIs, and 1,479 for weapons offenses. ICE Deputy Director Madison D. Sheehan said the efforts have also targeted workplaces employing illegal workers. Since January 20th this year, over 1,000 illegal workers have been arrested and fines exceeding $1 million have been imposed on non-compliant businesses. This is what it looks like to see the law enforced in America. Now, I want to address something. Really quickly. I don't have this soundbite pulled up. I've had this. It was pulled up in a previous, I don't know, maybe it was this week. It could have been last week. Tom Homan. Tom Homan was out there talking about. Tom Homan's all over the media talking about this stuff regularly. And one of the common things you will hear, in fact, you may have heard this from people on the left, who say there were more deportations under Biden than there were under Trump. Let me explain Tom Homan explained this well, and I just don't have the soundbite here. But in essence, what's happened is first of all, the southern border is now secure. The southern border now has very few people are trying to cross the southern border. In fact, more people, according to reports, are trying to cross it to get out of America so that they are not deported, and then as a result or a consequence of being deported, face a harder time getting back into this country in the future. So they're trying to sneak back out. Some of them, as I've shared with you before, are reportedly hiring coyotes to smuggle them out of America. Coyotes are typically used to smuggle people into America. That's how it's been done in the past. Now people are self-deporting. Now people are hiring coyotes to help get them out without detection so that they won't be basically prevented from returning to this country in the future. That's what's going on. So there is virtually illegal immigration at the moment. People crossing our border currently has come to a virtual standstill. And it was the exact opposite. It was the exact opposite over the past 4 years. It was wide open borders. It was come as you will, catch and release, court dates that are set infinitely into the future. Most people were just basically turned loose, right? That's what was happening in this country. It was unbelievable what was going on. That has stopped. That stopped clearly within the first 100 days. That stopped within the first 30 days of Trump being in office, which again, as I've said on here before, only highlights the reality that Biden could have done something to slow that, to stem the tide of that at any moment. He chose not to. He didn't care. And the people that we are deporting now were walking around this country harming Americans or potentially looking for other Americans to harm. These are not good people. They have records. They are violent. And they've been deported. And they are continuing to be deported. Again, what was the percentage? Was it 3? I want to say it said 3/4. Looking here in this article. But most of the folks that are being deported are people with criminal records. Large majority. There we go. 3/4 of the arrests were of criminal illegal immigrants. So 3/4 of the people deported, according to ICE reports, had criminal records. Now, that doesn't mean that the other quarter wasn't supposed to be deported. And this is where the media is gaslighting me and you and our fellow Americans. They are telling us that we can only export people with criminal records. And if they don't have a criminal record that's been tried in a court of law, then that is somehow violating their due process. Absolutely false. 100% false. That's what they're trying to get Americans to believe. What Trump is doing is 100% necessary and 100% legit. These people are here illegally. We're starting with the ones who have a criminal history, who are violent, and we're getting them out of Dodge. That's the first thing. Now, let's talk a little bit about the numbers of deportations. Biden had high numbers of deportations, but there was a little bit of some funny math going on. Because if someone was apprehended at the border and deported basically from there, those were counted in deportations. So the number of people deported were coming from the people who were actually being stopped at the border. And in the event that they weren't allowed into this country, weren't given asylum, whatever, those were counted as deportations. Tom Homan has expressed this, has explained this. That's a dramatically different thing than deporting people who are already here. So let's just, again, this is not hard to understand for anybody who really wants to know the truth. If I have a wide open border and there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people coming across regularly, nonstop, and a percentage of those are denied entry and they're marked as a deported person, that did not impact the number of illegal aliens inside this country before someone crossed. It's not it's a net zero thing. You're not actually deporting someone who was already here and living in this country illegally. That's what's happening under Trump. So step one, as we've articulated and explained on this program, as Trump and his team have articulated consistently, is to stop the madness at the border. Check. This is indisputable. The border is the most secure it has been in my lifetime, and maybe longer than that. I don't know how far back we have to go, maybe ever. The border is effectively secured now. Thank you to the Trump administration, people who are actually interested in enforcing the law. Now, the border is secure. Now the people who are deported are not being counted amongst those who crossed the border and were denied entry and were deported from that point. No. These folks are being rounded up by ICE agents. These folks are being sought. These people are parts of raids. We have people that are out there looking for people to send them back to their home countries to get them out of this country. And so the 65,000, I don't know if Biden did any of those. I don't know if he did 2 of those. If he did any serious, if they did any of these, it would have been incredibly low numbers. Certainly would not have been 65,682 in the first 100 days. So this is important. So if some snarky leftist, some self-righteous leftist comes up to you at the workplace, at the water cooler, or whatever, and says to you, well, Biden deported more illegal aliens than Trump has, explain that to them. Explain that Biden was counting, his administration was counting the people that were stopped and refused entry as deportations. These deportations are literally deportations of people who have been living here, and that 3/4 of them, according to reports, are people with criminal histories. These are people who are the worst of the worst, so to speak, as far as criminal behavior is concerned. This is what it looks like to put America first. This is what it looks like to care about American citizens and families. This is what it looks like to try to prevent some of these atrocious crimes that have happened, dare I say, putting blood on the hands of the previous administration, of illegal aliens, people that were not supposed to be here, that the administration allowed to be here, and that they murdered or raped or physically assaulted young women, whoever they harmed. This stuff is that stuff is unconscionable. Should never have happened. This is what it looks like to want to actually put a stop to that. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. There you have it. This is in the stack of stuff. If you want to read it for yourself at toddhuffshow.com, just go to the stack of stuff. Again, that is a hat tip and an honor, just a recognition of the late, great Rush Limbaugh. He had a physical stack of papers. We have a digital stack of stuff on the website, but you can read that story there. All right. I want to pause here for a moment as we square up to move on to the next topic I want to get on into today. Before I do that, though, my friends, I want to talk to those of you who might be in sales. And I want to ask you, are you where you want to be today? Are you making the money? Are you having the success? Are you getting promoted or getting opportunities within your company that you maybe could get if you had the right tools and training and support system in place? Chances are you're looking to improve your situation if you've been in sales, and whether you're struggling to close sales or you just want to sharpen your skills and get a little bit better to get to that next level, get to that next promotion, whatever the case may be. Matt Easton, Easton University are here to help you. They have a sales training program. I think I would put this up against any sales training that I have ever seen, even going back to the late, great Zig Ziglar. Matt Easton, they have a wonderful program. They've got a video training course. It's incredibly comprehensive. It's just very, very well done. And if you put these things into practice, it works. But it's not just the training system, which is great. They've also got weekly coaching sessions where you can jump on at Ask Matt and ask Matt questions, and he will answer those questions. 2 weekly sales calls a week. It's a great system, my friends. I highly recommend it. We've done it, my team here. I think it's fantastic. I think if you follow Matt's system, it will pay off. But you've got to take the first step. You've got to invest in yourself. You've got to do the work necessary. ToddHuffShow.com/Easton is where you can go. That's EASTON, ToddHuffShow.com/Easton. You can sign up as a student of Easton University, get more information there. You can also, if you sign up through that link, get a one-on-one welcome call with Matt Easton himself. He'll help you identify your top sales challenges, kind of figure out how to start, get a game plan together, and get you hitting the ground running as quickly as possible. ToddHuffShow.com/Easton is where you can go. All right, so other things vying for my attention here. This one, I'm going to do this one really quickly because it allows me, this is a quick hitter. I can do this quickly, and we can move on to something else here in the next segment. But I referenced this off the top. Headline here, thewokespy.com. Judge orders the release of transgender alleged Tesla vandal. Actually, I'm going to play this. There's a report from a newscaster here outside the courthouse or the jail, it looks like. This is Kansas City. I want you to listen to this. We're on in Kansas City. This is happening in your neighborhood in Kansas City. Listen to this.
Bria and John, the government wanted Owen McIntyre to spend the time before trial behind bars, but the judge in Boston sided with the defense in this case, which cited multiple medical issues facing the 19-year-old, including autism spectrum disorder, gender dysphoria, and ADHD. McIntyre's attorney argued the teen should be released, citing serious and ongoing medical needs and treatments that could not or would not be provided while in federal detention. The defense filing says McIntyre is being treated for depression and since March has been receiving gender-affirming care.
Since March.
That care would likely be interrupted or terminated in federal custody.
There you go. So now they're concerned. So you have this 19-year-old biological man. His name is Owen McIntyre. He is claiming to be a woman and has some health conditions, ADHD and things like that, depression, and has basically the state wanted to have this individual in custody, in jail, prior to the trial for setting fire to Teslas at a Kansas City dealership. And that's what the arrangement was supposed to be until the defense attorney said, look, my client, who's a biological man trying to be a woman, which is impossible, by the way. These treatments just started in March as well. This is May 2nd. So I don't know if these things were coordinated. I mean, I don't know. Was there a connection between, does this sort of behavior illustrate the likelihood of engaging in violence or even what some would consider terroristic activities? I don't know. But the bottom line is the judge freed this 19-year-old before trial because he has no access to gender-affirming care. What a crazy world we live in. I got to take a time out, my friend. Sit tight. Back here in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. So, I want to shift gears here a little bit. There's a couple of other things I want to get to here. Two stories that I consider to be related. Because they both demonstrate the rift and the problem that exists within the Democrat Party, which is something we've been talking about fairly consistently here for the past, pretty much since the election. And honestly, before that, because the problems that exist in the Democrat Party are not unlike the problems that exist in the Republican Party in this sense. Now, in one sense, they couldn't be further apart from one another. The problems in the Democrat Party are based in ideology. The problems in the Democrat Party are that the Democrat Party wants to engage in woke legislation and woke governance. The people don't want that. The people reject that soundly and without any hesitation or question. That's where the American people come down on that. That's not complicated or difficult to understand. The Democrat Party has gone way, way, way too far to the left, and they're now being held accountable. That's what's happening there. Now, what I'm referencing is there's a problem, the similarities within the parties, the respective parties. There's a fight for control. We've been through this of the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. The Republicans, the fight is between rhinos, country club Republicans versus conservatives. In the Democrat Party, it's between the liberals and maybe some of the more moderate blue dog Democrats, to whatever extent they still have a voice in today's Democrat Party versus the radically insane left. The people who hate capitalism, the people who are promoting woke cultural nonsense, the trans agenda, the people that would stand behind what I just talked about at the end of the previous segment. So that is similar. There's a fight, and who wins that fight determines who's on ballots, whose agenda, who actually shapes the party's platform. And so you've got a fight over here that's happening, and it's more intense right now on the left. At least it's more public right now on the Democrat Party, in the Democrat Party, than it is in the Republican Party. The Republican Party has power, but look, there's a lot of disagreement within the Republican Party based upon what I've just laid out. There's conservatives who want to see real, substantive changes, and then there's rhinos who want to do, or country club Republicans, they want to do as little as necessary, as little as possible, to still keep their positions. These are folks that will act and will be moved further to the right, further to logic and reason and sense if they are, I'm talking about a healthy pressure, if your voices are made known to them. They can be moved, but they're not going to go any further than they think is necessary to appease their voting base. So, that being said, going back to the Democrats, Bernie Sanders is on CNN with, I guess, I think it's Caitlin Collins. So you have Bernie Sanders versus Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer's out there saying Democrats are united, Republicans are not. Bernie Sanders comes on and says Democrats are united around what, Chuck? What are we fighting for? Bernie, I would say, is right on this, but I want to play this. It's a little confusing. Some things don't translate to radio and audio podcasting. You almost need to see it, but Caitlin Collins plays clips of Bernie and Chuck Schumer, and then Bernie chimes in. So you'll hear Bernie say something like, I agree with that last guy. He's basically agreeing with himself. He's responding to a clip that she played. But that being said, I want you to listen to this. This is the rift happening within the Democrat Party. And this is going to go on. This is going to be interesting to watch, and it's going to obviously determine who the party's candidate's going to be in 2028, what direction the party takes. Are they going to move back to the center a little bit? Are they going to double, triple, quadruple down in this absolute madness of leftist ideology? I do believe that they're going to be forced to at least give the appearance, and that's an important phrase, give the appearance that they are moving back to the center, not to the center, but in the direction of the center than where they are today. They're going to at least give that illusion because they know that they have gone way, way, way too far. So that being said, here's Bernie. You'll hear a soundbite from Chuck Schumer. You might hear Caitlin Collins, and then you'll have Bernie himself respond to one of Bernie's earlier statements about there being a rift in the Democrat Party.
Our caucus is united. Look at this. The Republicans on this upcoming reconciliation bill, which sets the funding for the whole government, they're fighting with each other. Compare that to the Democrats. We're totally united. We're totally united in my caucus.
What Democrats lack right now is a vision for the future.
I'm assuming you're...
I think that last guy was right. Not the other guy, but the guy was on last.
So, it's not surprising. You believe you're right and Senator Schumer's wrong here.
You need an agenda. Did you hear? You're not united around what? Are we united around guaranteeing health care to all people? I am proud, by the way, that the Democrats supported an amendment that I offered to raise the minimum wage to $17 an hour. That's a start. Are we united in tackling a corrupt campaign finance system? Now, you tell me, you're an observer of these things. How do you deal with politics in America without understanding that billionaires play an enormously destructive role in both political parties?
So that's his position. And by the way, Bernie's right. He's not necessarily right as far as what the solutions are. He's right in saying the Democrat Party is not united around an agenda because of what I told you at the beginning of this segment. There is a fight. There's a fight between the Bernie Sanders wing of the party, the Bernie Sanders wing, the AOC wing, Ilhan Omar wing, Rashida Tlaib wing. These radical leftists are of the opinion that America needs to, wants to, is ready to go full-on communist, I guess. And so That's their position. And so Chuck Schumer, I put Chuck Schumer in this boat. I put Nancy Pelosi in this group, in this general bucket, if you want to categorize people, just to wrap your heads around it. I'm not saying that it's always helpful to put labels, but just to help understand who's really on which side of this. You've got the practical, old school, liberal politician, the Chuck Schumers, possibly the Hakeem Jeffries. I mean, if you get to a position of leadership, the chances are good that you're more practical. Nancy Pelosi's in that group than you are ideological. AOC's not. AOC is over there with Bernie Sanders. Rashida Tlaib over there with Bernie Sanders. These are the people who are honestly dangerous. They have dangerous ideas. They have anti-American beliefs. They don't like this country as it is founded. And so there's a fight between the party. And Bernie's right. What do we agree on? What are we agreeing on, Chuck Schumer? What is it that we're building this party around? We're not here all pushing in the same direction. We're unified in our opposition to Trump. And that's the problem Democrats are facing today. That's not something, and it's one of the reasons they're suffering. I mean, they're suffering amongst people in the country wanting to align with or support Democrats. It's one of the reasons why they're floundering and looking for a leader. The only thing that they're united around is their opposition to Trump. And that's not a way to build something that people want to be a part of. You've got to cast a vision, and the vision can't be to stop the other guy's vision. The vision has to be for your party, what you want to see happen, what it is that you want to help America turn into or become, or the direction you want to take them, the policies and all that sort of stuff. They have none of that. They've got the radical left out there, people like Tim Walz, I would say, by the way, as well. But you've got these radicals out there that are talking about all sorts of insanity. We talked about Tim Walz yesterday. Tim Walz is still out there defending basically the idea that he was a DEI candidate. He was DEI as a white guy, according to him, to appeal to white guys. We played this and talked about this yesterday. I talked about it. I don't think I played a clip yesterday. But he's out there saying, look, this is why I was put on the ticket, because I was a white guy that gave them a permission structure to vote for Kamala, the black lady, the Indian American lady. That gave white guys permission to do so because I could talk with them about football and fixing their truck. That's literally what he said. That's paraphrasing, but we talked about that yesterday. How is that a vision for America? That's a tactic. That's a tactic to try to get people to vote for you. But what's your vision? There is no vision in any of that. He didn't say, I was the nominee because I have a strong record on this issue. I would have taken this issue over in the White House and I would have made these top 3 things my priority in a Harris-Walz administration. He didn't say any of that. He said I was on the ticket because I could get white guys, give them permission to vote for Kamala. Silly stuff. They have no vision. They have no ideas. They have no leaders. I'm not saying this is a permanent state of affairs, but I am saying that they had better be very, very concerned about this, because while we're still, 3.5 years from the next presidential election, we're less than 2 years away from the next the midterm race, and they better get these things figured out or they're going to be set up to have another losing election. They don't, and I hope they do, by the way. I hope they do have another losing election. Anyway, long in this segment, got to wrap up. Quick timeout, back in a minute. All right, my friends, here we are. Final segment. Second hour, third segment. Final episode of the week here. As always, if you want to listen to anything that you might have missed, shame on you for missing it. But if you did, you can go to toddhuffshow.com. You can go to our Rumble channel. You can go to wherever you listen to podcasts and download anything that you might have mentioned. I have one other thing that I want to get to here today. And I think I've gotten through everything. I'm not going to be able to get to Amber Ruffin. Comedian. I use that word loosely. I mean, who knows? I've got an outside chance I can get there, but I don't think so. I do want to play this soundbite to demonstrate what's going on in the Democrat Party. To demonstrate the the battle, the fight, the ideological, almost civil war that's happening over there. We got James Carville, who's been in Washington politics, Democrat politics for a long time, although not domestically, which he points out in this interview. This is on the Tara Palmieri show. No idea what this is. I just stumbled across this on the Bongino report. But anyway, David Hogg and James Carville are talking. Now, David Hogg wants the party to go further left. James Carville calls David Hogg a jackass on this program. Actually, he says you're jackassery is what he says, for wanting to basically help one Democrat beat another Democrat. James Carville says, I want to help Democrats beat Republicans. That's what he's out there saying. I want you to listen to this because, again, James Carville, listen, who's crazy. He's a liberal. He's not a radical leftist, but he's a liberal. David Hogg, a leftist. This is a case study of sorts as to the battle that's happening between the more liberal, established, candidly older crowd in the Democrat Party with the younger, with the exception of Bernie Sanders, the younger, more radical leftists in the party. I just want you to listen to this to get a feel for that fight in the party. Oh, it's going to take me a second here. Got to re-cue this. But David Hogg, you remember David Hogg, of course. David Hogg was involved in the Parkland shooting in Florida a few years ago. He's now the vice chair of the Democrat Party. And so that's his, path to having this power. James Carville, of course, was involved with the Clinton campaign. He goes back to the 90s. He goes back before that. But he hasn't been involved in domestic U.S. Elections since the 90s, which he'll talk about. All right, sorry for that. I got it queued back up. Here's James Carville basically calling out David Hogg on this program with Tara Palmieri, calling David Hogg a jackass, basically. Here it is.
Let's run it up as high as we can.
Okay, so James, you've had some words though for David and like what he's doing in terms of supporting some primary challengers who are, that would be taking out perhaps like an older guard. It's not necessarily older people, but people that he says are asleep. And you said that members of the DNC should sue him for doing this since David is a member of the party leadership. He is the vice chairman.
I think he's the vice chair.
Yeah, he's vice chair.
Let me be very specific. I think it is abominable that an official of a political party who is being paid or supported by that political party to go out and raise money to defeat members of the same party. I think that's a jackassery of the highest level.
James, can you tell me
if you want to beat Republicans, of which of course lefties never do, they never even run against them. That's one thing. I'm not into beating Democrats. I'm into beating Republicans.
James,
So that was a pretty straightforward and actually a good answer. Listen, what's interesting is, to me, again, someone who's watched this for 30 years now, while I often conclude, or typically I'll always conclude, that the liberals are wrong, at least the liberals have some degree of sense to them. Nancy Pelosi, dangerous though she may be, she is... It's changed as she's gotten into her latter years, but she's a very shrewd politician. She is. She's very good at what she does. Chuck Schumer, probably not as good at that. I don't mean as far as introducing policy. I just mean navigating the world of politics and ruling candidly with a little bit of an iron fist. James Carville, I can see some shrewdness to this. He says, look, I don't care about defeating Democrats. I want to beat Republicans. You're getting paid, David Hogg, by the Democrat Party. It's abominable that you're out there getting paid by them, and then you're undermining the Democrats that you're supposed to be representing, or at least working to help facilitate, them winning against Republicans. You're challenging Democrats to run against other Democrats, and you put up these lefties that can never beat Republicans. I think he's spot on with that. Here's David's response.
Say, first of all, I am not paid to be a vice chair. The vice chair role is not a paid role at all. It's a volunteer role. What I would also say to that is that I think it's possible for us to do two things at once. We do, at my organization, Leaders We Deserve, support challenging Republicans that are in very vulnerable seats. And last cycle, we helped to break the majority for Democrats to have a one-seat majority in the Virginia state.
Okay, I'm going to get the short of this is he's defending what he's done. He says my position's not paid, so I'm not paid, which that's a relief because he's getting paid what he's worth there. But this is, this is the fight that's happening. James Carville's saying, look, I want to win elections against Republicans. You're pushing for candidates that have less of a chance of beating Republicans, and you're hurting the Democrats that are part of the party along the way. This is what's happening. Carville's right here. I'm just out of time, friends. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for listening. SDG.